And welcome back to Split Screeners Podcast. We're presenting a movie review on Oppenheimer, directed by Christopher Nolan. But before we get to that, remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification to stay on top of all our drops. Hit that beautiful intro. We three here at this table did see Oppenheimer the opening weekend. We will go over our thoughts, feelings on the film, whether we liked it, what didn't like it. At the end, we'll give it a rating, and we'll cut the film on the video at that point.
So I like how you go between open and oppen.
I'll do it
Hang
several times.
on.
Oppenheimer.
Oh, what'd you think, Nick?
Typical Christopher Nolan, right?
Yeah.
Just a pretentious piece of film.
You'd think by now you could maybe afford to film a movie in full color and not have black and white mixed in there. Like, come on. Did you have to put it on, what is it, 64 millimeter? Run out of color ink?
I just don't understand why this guy can't come up with any of his own original ideas. Best movie he made was a fucking Batman movie. That's disappointing.
And it was only good because of Heath Ledger.
Yeah. Wow, that's not the best Batman movie that he made.
Well, it's one of them.
Arguably.
Arguably.
Most people would agree with you. I guess I should just
back off. Just not.
Back the fuck off.
Yeah, he is kind of a pretentious douche. If you get right down.
Oh, shit.
Huh.
Zach,
What?
I didn't realize he was Alden
Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich.
Yeah, he was
Who was
the aide.
He was the guy who was helping out Robert Downey Jr.'s character.
Oh, okay.
Strauss.
Strauss.
Strauss?
I think it was Strauss.
Strauss. Okay. I will not retract my last statement. I do think that there's part of Christopher Nolan that is a pretentious douche.
He's just really into
Pretentiousness.
the old style of filming, not using a lot of CGI, and he just loves getting really deep into his own stories.
Tenet, no CGI whatsoever.
That being
had CGI.
That being said, I've hated on a lot of his movies. Tenet, Inception, the first Batman movie that he made.
Batman Begins.
I'm sure there's many others I could name. This one surprised the shit out of me. And maybe it does go back to that this is more of a historical movie, and he had a lot of stuff to go off of. But I still think that he obviously took his own spin on a couple things, and I just think that it was very well done. We talked a little bit after I saw it. We didn't want to talk a bunch about it. There is a scene in this movie, the moment that they're testing the bomb, that the bomb drops, and for 60 to 90 seconds it feels like it's just pure silence.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Outside of hearing normal movie effects, you hear jeans moving around and a heartbeat, breathing, and it was almost, if the term silence is deafening was meant for anything, it was for that moment in this movie, because it really was. After all of the sound and noise for this movie, for 60 seconds to just not hear really anything was crazy. It's one of the coolest things I've experienced in a movie theater.
It sucks the air out of the room.
Yeah, it does. And then to just come back with the
shockwave
was really well done. I don't know a whole lot about this. I'm not very big in the history, so I can't sit here and tell you, well, this detail was wrong, but he got this right. But I just think that it was really well done. The cast was great.
The cast was wild.
The cast was crazy.
There are big names on that list
that didn't have much
30
seconds
of screen time.
Yeah. Josh Peck, it was cool seeing Josh Peck in this movie.
Gary Oldman playing one of the presidents, who I almost didn't recognize at first, but then I started looking a little closer. I'm like, holy shit, that's Sirius Black.
Kenneth Branagh's in this movie.
Yes.
The cast was amazing. The acting was very well done. I would be very ecstatic to go see this movie in its intended format. I just don't know where the closest one of those IMAX theaters is to here.
14 theaters we have in the States.
There's a lot of there's a lot of IMAX theaters in the U.S., but there's only 14
that
are made to service a film like this the way
To hold a 600-pound reel.
11-mile reel.
That's
I used to work with film at the movie theater I used to work at, and like the biggest one we had was probably maybe like 40, 50 pounds.
Yeah, it's insane how different.
That's the other thing that I will say about this movie that I actually enjoyed. When I saw a 3-hour runtime, I was like, oh, fuck. When I saw Christopher Nolan, 3 hours, I was like, oh, man, this is going to be long. And you were right. I don't think that you really feel the length. It does feel like a longer movie.
I think it's because of the first half of the film.
But there's not a whole lot that, like, took me out of the experience. Like, I didn't ever feel withdrawn while watching this movie. It kind of kept me in the whole time. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I would applaud Christopher Nolan on this movie.
Yeah.
I would put this in my top 3 Christopher Nolan movies as well.
Yeah, I would say very entertaining. Does not feel as long as it is. As a history fan, I was really interested to see this, to see what he did with the book and the story it's based on, or the real events. I think he did really good with the material, even knowing how the story planned out. There were still moments where he built good tension, like, is the bomb gonna work? I'm like, I fucking know the bomb works, but I'm still like, they're counting down, is it gonna work? I know how this ends, but maybe there's a twist. So he did really good with the tension, building that up. Great characters, the actors. Robert Downey Jr., I hate his character of Strauss, but he did a phenomenal job in this role. And I don't think I've seen Robert Downey Jr. as a villain before. That I can think
the
of.
The closest we've get to him at being a villain in recent history was Civil War.
Yep, Iron Man 3. He was the villain.
Civil War.
But no, he did an outstanding job. And Cillian Murphy, obviously he looks very similar to Oppenheimer, so great casting there, and he's a great actor. And Matt Damon, he did a good job.
Yeah.
I usually don't like Matt Damon in a role, but he actually pulled it off.
One of the things, I consider myself a pretty intelligent individual, and we talked about this a little bit as well. There were definitely moments in this movie where I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? But still, even going through those moments, I was still engaged, and I was like, oh, I like the words that are coming out of your mouth, Mr. Man.
Black holes,
stars and
implosions.
So on that topic, I do agree with like how they like kept it to like for the normal audience to understand what was going on, what was being discovered, what was being talked about scientifically. Mm-hmm. Like as somebody who does like history and was really interested in astronomy as a kid. I got that very easily what they were talking about. I was able to like get on that level of excitement.
Yeah, it's very in layman's terms
with them, and I did appreciate that a lot.
No, they nailed that because if you don't pay attention to science or anything, it's always going to be a mystery. But if you have a little understanding there, it's easy to follow. They dumb it down enough if you're familiar with any of those basic principles. So it's appreciated because they aren't making it seem like a foreign language in that sense. Really liked what they do and followed the story. I don't know enough details of his personal life. I didn't study any of that in history, other than the big cues which they hit.
What the U.S. government lets us know.
Yeah, what the U.S. government lets us know. I knew there was an inquest, but not all the little details or that it was one guy's vendetta. So I hope that's all true to the actual events. I don't know how much was embellished.
I knew a lot about, like, I knew for sure, like, Harry Truman hated him afterwards. And, that was a player.
Don't ever let this baby back in my office.
This crybaby.
Yep,
keep him out of my office.
One of the things we don't have to touch on a whole lot is towards the end of the film, after they've dropped the bomb and everything, you get all these tie-ins to these flashbacks and these almost moments of panic that he's experiencing while he's going through this quote-unquote trial.
Yeah.
And it's so not relatable because I would never be in that situation, but like you can totally see his point of view and like you built this weapon and now you have to live with the fact that the weapon that you spent 3 years of your life making has been used to kill millions of people and how like incredibly hard that would be on your brain for Hundreds of thousands.
Well, even during like the like we did it speech near like right after they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, like
Yeah, everybody's celebrating.
everyone's celebrating, but like he's in his own head,
Yeah.
like he's seen like
Yeah,
flash
having
burns,
visions.
corpses,
Yeah.
the flashes from the bomb behind him, just like all this like regret is starting to like build up,
Yeah.
and
I
like
mean, it'd be a heavy burden
it would be
knowing that
a huge
you were
heavy
the
burden.
number one responsible for all that. You organized and led these scientists.
Mhm.
So,
I
yeah,
know.
I'm glad that was inserted.
I know there was part of him, like especially before the bomb was used, that wanted the bomb to be used so people would understand what it was.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
get that to an extent, but
Like, yeah, had it gone better where it was shown off not killing anybody is probably his ideal situation. Be like, oh, that could be used on people, but
I mean,
obviously
yeah.
it's not how it went. And now we have nuclear arms races.
Yeah, which is a terrifying thought.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I left this movie thinking about.
Mm.
Was like the idea of war now. Like back then it was terrifying enough. Now it's like
Yeah.
it's horribly frightening. It's
Once
something that
the
I do
war
not want to think about.
escalates that far. Yeah,
Yeah.
So you-
absolutely.
I feel like as a society now, like we still have that fear, but we've been desensitized by
Mhm.
time
Mhm.
and like the lack of use. But having that be invented and then go straight into the Cuban Missile Crisis,
Yeah, it'd be
that
terrifying.
would be a terrifying time. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
duck and cover days.
Yeah, duck and cover. That'll save
Well,
you.
on this one. So World War II ended in 42,
I think it was closer to 44, 45.
Yeah, 45, I think.
and then when did the Cold War start? Early 50s.
So it kind of went straight into the not Cuban Missile Crisis, the
No.
Korean War.
Yeah.
And then it went into the Cold War, if I remember right, near the JFK days.
Yeah, the Cold War started pretty early and escalated severely
Yeah.
into the Cuban Missile Crisis up until the fall of the Soviets. Crazy to think about, though.
Yeah. But you were, not to like pivot the topic, but
No.
you mentioned cast, and like there are so many moments in this movie where I kind of sat straight, like, oh, this is this person
Yeah.
from this movie. It was almost getting exhausting. Like we had Gary Oldman as Harry Truman. Just going through the cast list as quickly. Casey Affleck. He was in the security clearance meeting. I thought he did a great job. He was very like commanding and like almost intimidating.
Who's the kid? He was in that Super 8, I think.
Oh, he's up here somewhere. I just saw his name. Dane DeHaan.
Yeah.
He played Harry Osborn in the Amazing Spider-Man
Yeah.
movies too. Josh Peck. Geez, there's so many names in here. Trying to just quickly. Florence
Emily
Pugh.
Blunt, Florence Pugh.
Yeah,
Matt Damon's
sad.
name was so far down here as well. Like he was in a lot of the movie, but
Yeah.
like he's like halfway down the list. I just saw one. Where was it? Kenneth Branham. I never get his last name right, but
Brannick?
Branham. Yeah, there we go. Jason Clarke. Alden Ehrenreich. He played a Senate aide. Robert Downey Jr. Like I think somebody said earlier, did an amazing job in this film. It's not very often we see him as a villain, but
Oh, yeah, it was a different role, but he nailed it. I hated him.
yeah,
And
but like
he did his job.
his acting chops in this movie were just so phenomenal, and like we're not even to Cillian Murphy yet, and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
hell yeah, he perfectly, in my opinion, perfectly portrayed Oppenheimer, as far as I know.
I mean, he looks very similar.
Yeah.
They're both very gaunt. And he lost weight for this role to emphasize that. So, nailed it on the look, but the man can act.
Yeah.
So,
This guy, I think his first, one of his first times being around Nolan was actually like trying to get the role of Batman for the Dark Knight trilogy.
Mhm.
I mean, from what I hear, it was a very like failed audition,
Yeah.
but like it got him into the movie as
Yeah.
the villain.
yeah, he was in it, and he was good in it.
One thing that like I kind of was iffy about on this movie was that the first half, like pre-detonation of the bomb, it felt very like choppy. Like they're trying to set up a lot of like his backstory, his early days in school. A lot of scenes felt like it was a couple lines of dialogue, next scene.
Yeah.
A couple lines of dialogue, next scene.
Yeah, a lot of that was rushed.
But I also get that it seems like it helped the runtime a little bit feel a little shorter. Because if you got like a little bit,
Yeah, had we deep
down,
dived that,
Yeah.
it would have really added to it.
But overall, like, what this movie I thought was really well done, acting wise. The structure, other than a few like pet peeves here and there, was well done. Before this movie came out, I was hearing a lot of flexing where like there's no CGI at all in this movie.
Yeah, they were really bragging about that.
Having seen this movie, I don't think it's as big of a flex as it initially sounded like.
No, it's not.
Especially as far
There's
as like
no CG that needs to be in this film other than the explosion.
Yeah.
And I feel like the explosion could have benefited from CG because like if you watch test footage of nuclear explosions, that mushroom cloud seems a lot bigger than what was portrayed here. And that's because it's a small explosion done out in a field and blown up with practical camera effects.
I do still feel like,
but it was still a good scene.
Yeah, I still feel like them doing it practically was pretty fun too.
It was.
And just,
but it's not a big flex because that's the one scene where you would have used CG.
Yeah. Other than maybe some cleanup, but they probably just.
And they could have still done that because that's not CG.
Yeah.
That's completely different. So fake flex, in my opinion.
Me being a Christopher Nolan fan, probably the only one at this table, realistically. I thought this was one of his best films that I've seen.
I agree.
And I do feel that it does lend a lot to the fact that it's a real life event that he had a lot of material to go back on. I do like his original stories as well. Like Interstellar was a great movie.
Memento's good.
I haven't seen Memento yet. I do have that on my watch list.
Yeah, Memento's good.
Memento might be my third movie.
Yeah, I didn't.
I did really like The Prestige.
Yeah,
you can hate all you want on Interception. I still love that movie. I still need to see Dunkirk.
Oh, you haven't seen Dunkirk?
Not yet. I have it. It's on my watch list.
Real quick, I don't want to touch on this too much because this is not what this episode's about. My issue, at least with a couple of movies, Tenet, Inception, I think that my biggest issue is that he's trying to make his movies seem smart. Yeah. He's trying to make people
it just
be
comes
like,
off as pretentious.
Yeah, I'm pretty smart. I totally understood what Inception was about. It's not a hard thing to understand. No. I just think that he wants to make himself more pretentious and douchey on purpose, and I don't think that's his intent, obviously. He's not trying to be pretentious, but that's the way it comes off.
I feel you're getting that more from the people who watch the films than...
I mean, 100% that could be it, yeah. And that does not include you. You have never made me feel that way. It's
Well, if you just understood,
it's stuff that I hear.
You're not smart enough.
Yeah.
God,
you don't get it. No,
so
I get the premise. It's just not as good.
Yeah, you just didn't understand. And
you lowbrow moviegoers. Yeah. All right. So, without dragging this episode out too much more, let's just start with our rating. Nick, you want to start?
Yeah, I give this an 8. I think that, for the most part, I was very into this movie. There were a few parts that might have lulled me out where I was like, oh, yeah, I should probably drink some water or something. I didn't care, but like, for the most part, I was very into it. That scene, I just don't think that there were a lot of memorable things that I'm going to remember about this movie. That scene when they test the bomb, I will remember. It will go down as one of my favorite movie scenes of all time.
I think the whole hour where they're getting close to setting up the bomb. Like they're in Los Alamos and working on it. That whole hour was just well done. And
it was. Like I said, I knew
like
how the testing went, but I'm still on on the edge of my seat with the tension.
Yeah. And when that bomb goes off, for real. Top 5 favorite movie moment of all time that I've seen in a theater. It was, it's up there with like the portals opening in Avengers Endgame. It was just so beautiful. It would be a great list. It was just so beautifully well done.
Some time for it though.
It is one that I will rewatch. It won't be with my wife because she doesn't like movies like this really. So it'll have to be one that I have 3 hours to dedicate while I'm alone to rewatch. But I enjoyed it. Aaron?
1.5.
Keep it moving.
Justify.
Keep it moving.
Justify.
Justify. Well, it's Christopher Nolan, pretentious.
Without sounding pretentious yourself.
Shit. You're just not smart enough to get my reviews, Zach.
You're just too low, bro.
A little low, perhaps. No, I would give this an 8. Again, I like this type of film. I like history and biography type films, but I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Definitely one of my favorite Nolan movies now.
I will say it was a mind fuck to go to this movie at 9:45 in the morning today.
Yeah,
because like
arrived.
I woke up at like 9. I threw on a shirt. I drove to the movie theater. So for the first like hour of this movie, I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
I woke up, or I went to bed about 9:30. My alarm went off at 8:45. I'm like, God damn you, Nick! Why are we doing the morning show? You dragged my ass there.
It might not be the fact that you guys woke up and went straight to the movie theater, because when I got off work and went to this movie, I was still for the first hour going, what the fuck is going on?
Okay. Alright, so yeah, man.
And I think it's because of the choppiness and how fast you're going through events in the first part of the movie.
And Christopher Nolan does not like to tell a story in order. He's got to jump around.
Yeah, so there's like 3 different timelines, timelines that you're trying to follow.
At least he didn't go
And one of them is in black and white.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that like helped divide that one up a little bit. But this might be a Split Screeners review first. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, we agree!
Could it have a higher score? Yes, if it's the beginning of the film for me, the first hour. Like, I did like watch a little bit of background before going to this movie on YouTube, like online biopics about Oppenheimer and how his like troubled childhood started, like being like at home for most of his elementary school life, not really going to high school very much, other than homeschooling, and then going into college and trying to kill his teacher. That was in the film.
Yeah, they put that in.
I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, I did too until you mentioned it.
But yeah, 8 out of 10 I think is a solid score. That scene, like you're saying, is in the cinema, like history making scene right there.
Yeah, it was very well done.
Yeah, I would go and watch this movie again in theaters before it leaves just for that scene again. That's how much I enjoyed that scene, which is a wild thing for me to think in my brain.
I mean, it's great because that's how it would be watching that explosion. The sound wouldn't get to you.
Like
it's just like thunder.
Yeah.
I want a shockwave.
I want to spend hundreds on a surround sound system just so I can
get
a fraction of that experience again.
Yeah, this is one. Oh shit! Probably won't have enough time. I would go. I could go to like 4DX and see this and.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I don't know if they have this one in 4DX.
No?
I don't know. They'll have it. It's an IMAX. We can at least do that. Screen X would be cool.
Yeah, I will be in Denver in a week or 2.
Leave
there you go.
your comments down below. Let us know what you thought of this movie.
What's
Let us
your
know
rating?
if you're going to even see this movie. That's.
I mean, you have to if you're going to do Barbenheimer.
Barbenheimer. And stay tuned for our Barbie review episode. That's going to be coming out soon, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Gavin, Zach, you want to close this
Oh
out?
my God! How dare you, sir?
My bad.
Sir! Alright, like I said at the bottom of the episode, remember to like, comment, subscribe. I said bottom of the episode because we're building up.
We're like a Christopher Nolan film.
We're backwards.
The beginning's at the end.
Yeah.
No, we're building up.
Oh, okay.
To the end of the episode. Leave your comments down below. Did you like this movie? Let us know.
Put your score down in the comments.
Do you think Aaron and I are just too stupid to understand Christopher Nolan?
We definitely are. We are idiots.
You should like more Nolan movies. You sound smart.
It's true.
I thought Tenet was just really cool and trippy.
Yeah, I give Tenet.
I thought it was entertaining.
I
got it.
All the backwards running just confused me.
Look,
Inversed.
I understand it. I just don't like it.
Yeah. I just found
Alright,
it,
guys. I think it's time to
split.
Now it's time to break it.